Israel has giant deflectors for incoming missiles, and look, it deflects the missile right back. Watch, look. It comes down and then boom, and then but it looks like it blew up, but it sends a missile right back up. It's crazy technology. Iranian ballistic missile intercepted over and impacting downtown Tel Aviv. Wow. It's crazy that wow is the same in English and Hebrew, huh? Uh-oh. Rip. Exo-atmospheric interception of an Iranian... What does exo-atmospheric mean? Oh, damn. Wait, is that real? That look wacky. Hassan was bitching about Israel having the Iron Dome today? No shot. It is really cringe that, like, you can tell... when like hostages are rescued and shit, people like Hassan legitimately get mad. Like they're actually mad. They're like, these motherfuckers, like they want him to die. It's crazy. Missiles that you see coming from the ground are sent from the depths of hell by Yahweh himself, or probably interceptor missiles or whatever. Damn. That's fucked. If that hit. Rip. Isn't she in my chat sometimes? Why is she at Israel? Am I crazy? The wood baby person, or am I mixing her with somebody else?
I saw two things.
What?
There's like a plane there. Did you hear that? There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is.
That's a thing. Those are things.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
These must be interceptors, no?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my god! Correct Iron Dome? Does the Iron Dome, wouldn't this be the Golden Dome or something different? Or is there a name? A Jericho, whatever the fuck, I don't know what it is. I thought the Iron Dome can only intercept rockets. Last time I asked, but I don't get it for real. Why would it be that bad for Iran to have a nuke? The immediate badness would be the potential of them nuking somebody, especially Israel, or Saudi Arabia. Neither of them would be very happy about that, number one. And number two, it allows them to continue to fund proxy militants and do a lot of bad military stuff, and it makes them a bit more impervious to attacks from people, especially like Israel, because now everybody's going to say the same shit that they say about Russia. And dude, people are frothing, especially all these lefties and dipshits in the West. But like people in these countries are frothing to be able to say, oh, hold on, can't attack us, we got nukes. Don't attack us, we've got nukes. World War III, nukes. You can't attack us, we got nukes, right? It's just a big off shield, basically. Is Iran targeting civilians? And if so, is there going to be a UN condemnation? Iran is, my guess is going to be the attacks back towards Israel are going to be relatively indiscriminate. I'm going to, first of all, Israel's military stuff is kind of close-ish to their people. And if they're just lobbing ballistic missiles over, I don't know, like the precision that they can target for anything. That being said, Iran itself is never going to be, from my understanding, is never going to be like trying to murder mass civilians, because it's just not how Iran operates. They would rather do that through their proxy groups. It's my understanding. And just like that, U.S. forces are involved. Breaking. U.S. forces are participating in defeating the Iranian attack on Israel, Israeli officials say. U.S. forces here probably means like ships that we have in the Mediterranean, or some type of like surveillance or recon or whatever, not like troops on the ground or whatever. Multiple ballistic missile impacts in central Israel. So Israel does not intercept missiles for the Iron Dome at least, I don't know if the slingshot David bullshit does this, but for the Iron Dome or whatever, will not intercept missiles that it has determined are landing outside of city limits. So just because ballistic missiles are hitting inside of Israel doesn't necessarily mean that they're hitting buildings. Although I saw a couple blowing up, I guess, in Tel Aviv. Is there like a death count or anything right now, or is anybody dead? Destiny, how serious of an escalation will we see if Iran goes after U.S. ships in the region now that we are involved? We're not really involved, and they won't go after U.S. ships because that would be fucking retarded. 0 deaths so far and 16 wounded. How does nobody die from missile strikes? So this is insane. This is insanely crazy. But in Israel, one of the things that they do, since they're under attack by people so much, is they actually take a lot of the building material that they have and they actually build shelters for their citizens so that when there are incoming attacks, the citizens don't get immediately fucking killed. The reason why they do this is because Israel has not learned the language of the West, and they are cucked losers that are trying to minimize the amount of civilian deaths, as opposed to Hamas, who are GigaChad-based gods who try to maximize civilian deaths so that they can take videos and run around screaming when children are being killed so that people like Hassan can amplify the propaganda. Is there a chance Israel would let a missile or two through the Iron Dome to say they're in danger just by future action? Probably not. I think that would require a lot. Iranian ballistic missile striking Tel Aviv city in central Israel. Civilian target. My guess would be for I doubt Iran like necessarily targets civilian stuff in Israel. They probably just lob missiles and hope that they hit, right? But I don't know. I'm kind of making that up. I don't know 100%. My guess is Iran has relatively crude-ish like ballistic missiles, but I could be wrong. Damn. Is Iran filming this and broadcasting this? Is that true? Is this real?
Moments ago, Iranian missiles were launched towards Israel, and from what I understand, multiple missiles have not been successfully intercepted. Remember, this is a multi-billion-dollar operation. You got Tamir interceptors that are for the smaller munitions, like and you have the arrow systems in Israel as well, but then on top of that you have anti-defense missile systems to protect Israel and Jordan, and you have the entirety of the American Central Command working actively to stop working actively in real time to stop all of these
working actively in real time. What?
From touching a hair on the head of anyone in Israel. And even then, in spite of all of that, Iranian missiles have been able to penetrate into Tel Aviv, as you have.
It's so crazy how this guy is cheering for Iran. Like, at some point you got to realize that you're the baddies, right? At some point you have to realize it. At some point, you have to realize that you're the bad guy. Somehow, some Iranian missiles are breaking through, guys! Yes!
Have seen before, and they're still doing it. I mean, you can see it. Look, the ones that are flying from the ground are the interceptor missiles. They're anti-defense missile systems, and yet, in spite of that, the Iron Dome can be overwhelmed, as the Iranian retaliation last time around showed. This seemingly, according to Elant News, who's in the chat already, appears to be in the vicinity of IDF headquarters.
That is a positive framing also. There are any ESL people here. In spite of, like, is usually like a cheering on, like, in spite of this, he managed to persevere. Usually the word you'd be looking for here, if you were being more neutral, you'd just say despite Israel's Iron Dome, Iranian missiles managed to crack through their defenses. In spite of that, They managed to do it. The little missile that could.
We don't have enough information coming yet. Obviously, Israel also has deep censorship laws. I mean, even though they got hella smartphones out there, and there's like literally Israeli chatters in here who could just...
Israeli is the country with deep censorship laws in this conflict? What?
Just like confirm or deny what's going on. But I think last time when this happened, the Israeli military immediately applied censorship and tried to stop the information from coming out, like confirming strike targets and whatnot.
I don't even, what is he talking about? There's like literally, there's a big app, Redfar, I don't know what it's called in Israel, to show you where strikes are going to be, where there's warnings, where there's sirens that go off to have you hide places. Everybody's got a fucking cell phone. They're connected to the internet. What is he talking about?
But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because obviously in the interim there...
Oh, I'm sorry. I know what he's trying to say. He's trying to say that the Iranian attacks are doing way more damage than we can tell, and Israel's covering it up or something like that. That's my bad. I wasn't being retarded enough. Jesus. I need to do like a whole bunch of DM, what is it, cough syrup or whatever, to make yourself fucking retarded before I cover Hassan shit, and then I'll be able to understand it better.
There's going to be some misinformation. There's going to be a lot of misinformation flying around as always. So just, you know, be aware of that when you're bringing in information here, and try to go after trusted resources. I suspect...
CNN mentioned that the IDF told people not to confirm targets today. Yeah, sure. But I mean, like, people are still recording everything, and shit is going to get posted regardless. Like, hello, we've literally seen people on their fucking phones posting live recordings of... There's literally live camera feeds over Tel Aviv. Like, hello? I mean...
that Iran is not done yet. This barrage is just simply the first salvo. There will be more that comes. They have to...
Famously, the first salvo is always the weakest. You want to lead with the weakest so that your opponent has time to get all of their shit in line and be ready to receive your next salvo.
In terms of self-preservation, self-defense, and ensuring that they do not get completely eviscerated, I suspect that the Iranian government's calculation here is going to be part restrained, so not so aggressive that they actively try to take out like heads of state or anything like that, just like Israel itself
What? He thinks that Israeli heads of state are surviving just because Iran is unable to take them out? Or I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did the exasperating thing for the opposite of what he's saying. He's saying that Israeli heads of state survive because Iran chooses not to take them out?
Some of that restraint in comparison to how belligerent they are when they don't actually go after, heads of state and stuff like that, but they assassinated a big chunk of the military command. They assassinated some top military officials, some nuclear scientists in residential areas. I don't know the exact number of casualties in Iran due to the Israeli strikes, but there was a relatively sophisticated infiltration campaign that Mossad had conducted, as far as I understand. This is not like glazed to Israel at all. But
what? I don't know where the new IDF came from. I don't know how they have the time to do all this fucking shit. Holy fuck, dude. If I was any enemy of Israel in the Middle East right now, I'd be like, okay. The Uber driver. How long have we had this guy showing up at our place for? Like, Jesus, these motherfuckers are everywhere right now.
But I think it also shows a weakness within Iranian national security that directly stems from the resentment that some in the Iranian population have towards this administration due to its fundamentalist attitudes, especially amongst the Iranian youth, and also the fact that the country is in turmoil economically, and it's much easier to basically purchase allegiances internally within Iran. The fact that Mossad was able to create a drone shop inside of Tehran, from what I understand, and then utilize those drones immediately to take out anti-air defense systems that Iran has, and then go after the missile salvo, goes beyond the notion of Israel gets to do whatever it wants and can use overwhelming force because they're backed by the most powerful country on the planet. Obviously, that plays a major role. There are no repercussions for Israel, but make no mistake, the very fact that they are able to build a drone facility, like a tiny drone facility, inside of Iranian national boundaries implies that there are massive leaks within the IRGC, within the Iranian government, and that they can take advantage of the Iranian population's discontent to a certain degree. So This is a major problem for Iranian sovereignty in general. This is a major problem for Iranian security.
Wait, what is this quote? What? The footage no one will publish. Israeli air defense systems firing from densely populated areas in Tel Aviv to intercept Iranian missiles. Who is really using civilians as human shields? What? I've never seen somebody so close to getting the point miss it so spectacularly before. What the fuck?
And I suspect,
like, they say that Americans aren't a murderous people, but notice that they put airbags in every single car so you can crash as quickly as you want into somebody with impunity and always survive that. Like, what?
that a big part of the reason why this is even taking place, or even took place, is because of that glaringly obvious weakness, one that I have even mentioned in the past. The regime's attitude and fundamentalist attitude specifically, paired up with the economic sanctions strangling the economy of Iran and causing volatility, creates a major weakness that the Israeli intelligence has clearly exploited successfully. Now, like I said, does Iran have the capability of really punishing Israel, like doing the deed, right? Doing the thing that people are worried about, understandably, like killing a bunch of civilians or potentially even assassinating like heads of state?
21-21.
From the likes of Iran. But certainly, if Iran decides to launch a whole bunch of them against one particular angle, it's going to be very difficult for Israel to fend against all of them. So predictably, some will eventually fall. And that in and by itself would be a new development for Israel, whereby such huge missiles would be able to create damage in the city centers of Israel. Now,
how long ago was the first big Iran attack on Israel? Was that over a year ago? How long ago was this? I don't even remember.
As far as the United States is concerned, now we have to ask ourselves a whole bunch of questions because our old assumptions no longer work.
Also remember, Israeli society is designed for this as well. Obviously, the Iron Dome has created a ridiculous sense of comfort for Israeli society that who knows how they'll react to this level of disruption. Having said that, however, they knew that this was going to happen, and they very quickly said, essential services only, we're fighting Iran, we're going to strike Iran, we're going to go to war with Iran.
Incredibly comfortable? That's an unhinged thing to say. Especially from the same loser, degenerate, subhuman fuck who said that he lived in terror in Turkey because of all the bombings that he lived through as a child. My God.
Like, it was a basic war declaration, right? And they knew that there was going to be retaliation, which is why I assume all the fucking, the remaining anti-Zionist Jewish Israelis in my chat right now are probably watching from a bunker. There are protections for this.
Crazy
right?
how
You have the
works,
Iron Dome, you have the Arrow defense systems, you have numerous incredibly expensive defense systems. They are not infinite, though. They do not have infinite ammunition. They have the THAAD, they have the Patriot, they have American defense as well, working alongside the Israeli defenses. They have the Jordanian defense that is also intercepting missiles and drones. David Sling is another one as well. Just something to consider. Iran's air defense is now actually working at intercepting Israeli attacks. Yes, I suspect that they blew their first load. I don't know if there's more. I'm sure there might be. Is it possible Iran could get some help from somewhere else? No. Iran has no allies. Russia is entirely too busy.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say they do, but they're kind of Russia's a little bit predisposed at the moment, having all their shit being blown up by $30 Walmart drones from the Ukrainian special services, and Hezbollah is too busy not being able to answer a phone call from literally any device because they don't know if it's going to fucking explode. And the Houthis are probably back to starving to death, I guess. I don't know.
Doing an illegal and unjustifiable occupation of Ukraine, obviously, and China is a non-interventionist. At most, they'll offer some supplies. You know, who knows? But obviously, Hezbollah is gutted, eviscerated by endless bombing from Israel against Lebanon. And
yeah, it's got to be so hard. Fuck, where are my superior Middle Eastern warriors? Why is Israel killing everybody? Ah!
And, there's no... It's just Yemen. And I believe Yemen this morning, before Iran even struck, actually turned around and sent a missile that struck, I think, the West Bank. It might have hit Hebron. Not sure if they actually hit a Jewish settlement in Hebron or if they actually hit a Palestinian Palestinian village in Hebron.
You mean city? Hebron is a massive city. Also, pretty sure, like, isn't it like 10% of the territory of Hebron is Jewish and like 90% is Palestinian? So if they shot a missile at Hebron, they probably hit a Palestinian area. Does anybody have the map of Hebron, Palestinian versus Jewish area? Okay, I might have exaggerated a bit. But well, I don't know if I did actually. I don't know what the percentage is. The majority of Hebron is under Palestinian control, though. So if they're shooting anything at that, they're probably hitting Palestinians. But I mean, who cares at the end of the day, right? Good memes.
But the entire axis of resistance against American imperialism and Israel in the region is incredibly limited. It's just militancies that Iran funds and offers logistics to and offers training to. And the takeover of Syria obviously played a major role in the supply chain, destroying the supply chain. That look, the Houthi missile fired earlier this hour was not intercepted according to the IDF. It struck near the West Bank town of Hebron. So with Syria being overtaken by an American asset, with Jolani.
Is that the claim now? It's an American asset? I don't know. I don't know anything about the recent the fall of Assad and who's in charge, and I don't know anything about that group, so I can't say.
Zelensky, former Al-Qaeda. Zelensky, there's no sustainable way of sending munitions into Lebanon for Hezbollah to utilize against Israel now. Anyway, here's some images. It is also very interesting seeing like Fox News and Western media coverage over like apartment complexes in Tel Aviv incurring damages. Because like now you know how the media covers like actual human beings in a densely populated civilian area when they get bombed. Like they remembered that there are humans in those buildings.
As opposed to the wall-to-wall endless coverage that we've seen of Gaza since October. What are you talking? Are you trying to pretend that nobody in the media has talked about what's going on in Gaza? Seriously?
So it's also, the dichotomy is very interesting because like literally not even 24 hours ago, they were talking about how awesome it was that Israel was like, launching this incredibly sophisticated campaign in Tehran. But once Israel gets penalized in retaliation from a sovereign state that it violated the sovereignty of, all of a sudden everyone's like the horror, the shock, I can't believe it. Meanwhile, of course, Israel has been doing a cleansing campaign that it even escalated in the last 48 hours in Gaza. Like that helmet is not going to help you, big dog. You know what I mean? Trey, what's that helmet going to do, Trey? It's not going to help.
Is Iran capable to, in its words, unleash so much chaos in the country there? Is it capable of doing it now, especially being hit by Israel?
You mean the West Bank? Wait, what? No, they're hitting Tel Aviv, big dog. The clouds of smoke are coming from Tel Aviv. Obviously.
Will someone ever confront Hassan on Twitch about his views? Hassan avoids challenging conversations intentionally because he knows he's uneducated on these topics.
The Yemen targeting capabilities are very different than Yemen's targeting capabilities are very limited in comparison to the Iranian
targeting capabilities. Like point and shoot and pray.
In terms of those hits that left enormous craters just north of Tel Aviv, very close to the Mossad headquarters. I was there on the ground, and when you saw the size of those craters, had that struck a building, you would be talking about incredible damage, enormous numbers of casualties. And so the Israelis did get quite lucky.
Soon in Tehran, Israeli minister posed with son of deposed Iranian monarch. Israeli Diaspora Affairs Minister Amichai Chikli shared a photo with Reza Pahlavi, the exiled Iranian opposition figure. Yeah, they're like, we're going to put back the monarchy. We're going to restore the monarchy so that you can have a democracy, a democratic monarchy in Iran.
Picture in terms of casualties on the ground. The sources that I've been speaking to in Israel over the course of the last 24 hours have all made clear that they expected that Iran's retaliation this time would look quite different, that it would be much more significant than what we saw in October. And while we certainly haven't yet seen that in terms of the numbers of missiles that Iran appears to have fired, at least according to the information we have right now from the Israeli military, it certainly is looking like those Israeli officials were right when they predicted a very significant Iranian retaliation. And then, of course, you have to keep in mind that this is likely going to continue for days, if not weeks. The Israeli military, the Israeli prime minister has made clear that Israeli attacks in Iran will not be limited to a one-day operation. We have seen, of course, Israeli jets.
Yeah, that's the other side. Red Alert app in Israel has crashed. I mean, it makes sense. The entire skyline is lit up right now. It's just the Red Alert app is insignificant to use in the situation. It's just all Red Alert. Everything is red. Hey, Hassan, how can I explain to my Cuban mother that Israel's engaging in a genocide? I don't know. I don't know how, if they haven't figured it out by this point. I mean, just literally tell them all the children that Israel has murdered. And also, it is utterly irrelevant in this at this point. Like that part is an utterly irrelevant piece of the puzzle here, okay? Anyway, if America intervenes, Iran should burn the Saudi oil fields. That is the nuclear option. The real nuclear option here that Iran has is not necessarily like actual nukes, but it's actually disrupting the entirety of global trade with its action against the oil refineries, okay? Global nuclear option here. If America intervenes, Iran should burn the Saudi oil fields. That is the nuclear option. The real nuclear option here that Iran has is not necessarily like actual nukes, but it's actually disrupting the entirety of global trade.
So Iran has already attacked Saudi Arabia refineries in the past. My guess, I'm super shooting from the hip here in the dark, with my eyes closed, in the middle of the night, and dead. Is if Iran were to engage in behavior like that, like literally the entire world would be like, all right, you're done. Too much. Now you're done. You ever have kids that are like, I don't know why kids do this, but kids are incapable of calming the fuck down. Anybody that's babysat or dealt with like grade schoolers or like they're incapable. Once they start to get rowdy, you can be like, hey guys, chill. They won't. The noise will always grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow until in anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, somebody gets severely hurt, something gets broken or destroyed, or somebody does something super. It always happens, and then that's when an adult comes in. It's like, okay, we're done. You're gone. Put this away. No more of this. Like, and that's what would happen with Iran. I think if Iran were to be like, we're gonna blow up every Saudi oil field as hard as we can, I think the whole world would be like, okay, well, You're done. No more.
With its action against the oil refineries. Okay. The Skyline live, by the way, third wave coming soon. Yeah. Netanyahu calls Iran strikes necessary to prevent the war he just started. I like that The Onion is trying to not be aggressive in its commentary, for the record. Wouldn't China intervene before it came to that? I don't know. I suspect. Okay. Iranian news outlets announce a second wave of missile strikes on Israel labeled Operation True Promise 3. In addition to military sites, the attacks are suggested to be targeting nuclear facilities inside Israel as well. The thing is, they don't have they don't have a reliable way of consistently pummeling targets inside of.
When it gets quiet on its own, you know it's bad. Oh, true. That means somebody did something real fucked up and they don't want you to know about it. When everybody's like loud and shit, and then all of a sudden like everyone's quiet, you'll hear it too because there's like a sound. This is it's not a parent thing. It's like if something turns off, you notice it as well. But if like kids have all of a sudden gotten real quiet, you're just like sitting around like, wait, what's going on? That's when you like walk into the other room and like everybody's like looking at somebody and then they look at you and they're like. Okay, who's bleeding? Who's dying? Or what did you broke that you all just fucking, tried to hide?
Tel Aviv targets inside of Israel in general. They don't. So it's more so about overwhelming the defense systems to the best of their ability while also having a couple of the missiles that they lobbed get through. Iran does not have a way of consistently striking inside of Israel in a way that like Israel has a way of, in the same way that Israel is allowed to do this or Israel is capable of doing this, specifically because Israel can do precise striking. Israel can fly and get refueled on the way, all the way over to Iran and make up.
Do F-35s need to? What's the mission range of an F-35? I seriously doubt they have to refill on the way there, no?
That distance and use airplanes to directly, like jet fighters, to directly target inside of Iran, right?
Oh, somebody said yes. They will? What is the distance from? Well, I guess, I mean, I look at it like it's inside the U.S., but I guess technically these are huge fucking countries. Tel Aviv to Tehran. Now I'm rethinking. In my mind, it's like 300 miles, but it's probably going to be like 2,000 miles, isn't it? What is the... Shit, okay, yeah, it's pretty... Yeah, I guess it's pretty far. 1,200 miles. Damn, that's a big ass. That's a wide boy. You got to cut the range in half because it's a two-way trip. True. Yeah, and depending on the missiles and everything they're carrying, I guess, is probably a lot as well.
Iran can't do that. Iranian Air Force does not have the capability, obviously, and also Iran would have to fly over hostile airspace to be able to get there. That's never going to happen. So the only thing that they have at their disposal is missile strikes and drone swarms. Okay? Israel starts this. My friend, there's never been a moment where Israel hasn't started shit, okay?
Really? Every single conflict, it's all Israel. True. The Jews are everywhere. True. True.
But yeah, second and third wave of ballistic missile strikes is making its way to Israel right now. How much is Jordan helping? A lot. You should stop reading chat. What do you mean? The hypersonics that Iran are using are not getting intercepted in great numbers. This isn't even about overwhelming the defenses. Listen. There are... this is the decades happening, if you know what I mean. All right, this is the...
Sometimes a decade happens in a minute, and sometimes minutes happen in a decade.
This is the decades happening in weeks right now.
Yeah. What we're hearing from a spokesperson following the red alert sirens that have been happening across...
It's not. I'm all in. Where's the chips sound? Chips shovel sound. I'm all in on nothing ever happens. This shit is done in 4 days. Israel's going to bomb some more nuclear reactor shit. Iran's out of weapons. It's all over.
the country. The MDA teams have provided medical treatment.
Mossad IDF's very own Barak Ravid, Israeli official U.S. forces participating in intercepting missiles in Iranian attack. Of course, I told you that that was going to happen.
We're seeing the damage done to the building. There's a live shot of Tel Aviv. 5 injured individuals is the latest that we're hearing. 1 in moderate condition, 4 lightly injured by shrapnel. They have been evacuated to the hospital as we do await an update on them. As you can imagine, right now they're still responding to the scene there, Jen.
Well, it's interesting, and as serious as it may sound in terms of injuries on the ground, that is a very light casualty toll. If those individuals are not seriously injured and nobody has been killed, given that 100 ballistic missiles were fired at Israel tonight.
Yes, remember my quote to live by. There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where nothing happens. And that's where we're at right now. We're at weeks where nothing happens, okay?
I'll be honest with you. Worst case scenario is America says, all right, it's time, and we're going to war with Iran. Best case scenario is Iran is able to deter Israel and America by way of Israel into backing down, okay? Backing down, getting back to the fucking negotiations table, and getting back to the bargaining. This is, here, I'll use an analog.
Yeah, okay.
That white people care about, like Ukraine and Russia. Remember when we were talking about like how Ukraine did this like massive drone strike on Russian aircraft, the Russian bomber planes, and I talked about how sophisticated this plan was and how good it was technically to develop leverage in the negotiations process. Think about it like that, okay? I know it's going to be really hard for some of the white people to comprehend what I'm saying here because like you're like, what? You're comparing Ukraine, a Christian country, to Iran, the scariest nation on the planet, but like major.
Is that the? Wait, for Ukraine, Russia? I'm sorry, I was just like, doesn't that comparison hurt you? But I just realized how he's comparing. He's comparing Ukraine, Russia to Israel, Iran, but Iran is like Ukraine and Israel is like, right, okay, based. Okay, based.
Major forces like this, regional powers like this, whether it be the global hegemonic superpower, the United States of America, or a regional power like Russia, they only respond to deterrence. And deterrence only comes from force, okay? At its most basic form, might is right is the only thing that these guys operate on. So you have to issue penalties to the state that is enacting this violence.
Damn, that's a dangerously Middle Eastern take. That is how people feel there.
This is what Israel has shown every single country in the region. Therefore, the best case scenario is that this retaliation for a relatively comfortable Western adjacent nation like Israel is too much to bear, right? Because we don't know what this is going to look like. We don't know what the endpoint of the Iranian response is going to look like. We don't know how much they will be able to target military facilities or even like a nuclear facility, right? But in that process, if they are able, or rather, even if they don't target nuclear facilities, what will Israeli society say when finally met with a fraction of the damage that their military conquest has pursued in all of their neighbors, in their entire neighborhood, whether it be...
What is he... Historically, does he think attacks on Israel have moved them towards peace and negotiations? Are you fucking retarded? What are you talking about? What?
Syria, whether it be Lebanon, whether it be obviously the worst version of this in the Gaza Strip. What will Israeli society do? Will they go, stop playing, stop gambling with our lives, enough is enough, or will they actually respond with increasing militancy and an appetite for more death and destruction? That's another factor to consider here.
Wow.
Okay? Same with the United States of America. Is this deterrence going to be enough for America to basically abide by the wishes of Israel, or for America to say, okay, we'll dial it back. We'll de-escalate here. That line of thinking is very American. They, like us, have to taste for their own blood. Wait, what? No, I'm saying that the only way, that the modus operandi here is responding to I tweeted this earlier. Okay? I said Iran has to retaliate because Israel has shown that they only back down when met with deterrence. Do not let anyone tell you that this response was unexpected. Israel and the U.S. both knew it would happen. That's why they declared a state of emergency right as they blew up Tehran. Okay? The nuclear negotiations was... okay, don't send me Felix Biederman tweets today, okay? This is... I can't respond. I love Felix. I'm talking to him privately, but I cannot publicly say anything about whatever Felix is posting. Don't do it. Look at the new video they're showing on Al Jazeera.
Issue and its unwillingness.
He said, don't drag me into your fucking retarded shit. This is unhinged. This is real? Hassan's Discord right now. Explosions in Tel Aviv. Apparently, the Houthis, Ansar Allah are playing the feed of the missiles hitting Tel Aviv in the middle of the city and celebrating whatever missile hits, which I cannot lie is some objectively funny hater shit. That is actually kind of funny, I guess. I need to live long enough to watch Israel and America be put down like the rabid feral dogs that they are. Okay. Do you think this guy lives in LA, Seattle, or Portland? Which one of those 3 cities do you think this 18 to 20-year-old white male I'm sorry, non-binary is from. Is it considered racism if we hate Pisraelis, though? Nah, they're literally evil incarnate, actual demons on Earth. I hope Algeria is making nukes. With every fiber of my being, I hope they're developing nukes. Tell me, this Hoscord, where will the sex offenders flee to now that Israel isn't safe? You people are disgusting. Good. Fuck up, or fuck then up Ayatollah Sahib. I don't know what that means. What's that based? And you hate Israel, you're guaranteed to take out a pedophile. Damn. He does know that, like, Israel, like, that whole land is like 50-50, like Arabs and Jews, right? What? Okay. If you're going to be racist or whatever, or anti-Semitic, at least be funny about it. This is a good tweet. White smoke indicating a new Jeffrey Epstein has been chosen. That's a good tweet. Serious, two-part question. You often say with Ukraine, Russia, that we can't have countries invading other countries in the 21st century. That's not what I said. Under most definitions, wouldn't the Israeli strike count as an invasion and thus violation of those norms? An invasion? No, almost certainly not. What I've said is the not normal thing is invading country to steal sovereign territory from that country and then incorporate it into your own. Is a thing that hasn't really happened. Okay, second dumb thing that gets said. You said in this comment, does Iran have a valid claim now of it? Does Iran have a valid claim now of it has the right to defend itself since Israel struck them first, unprovoked? Okay, people say this retarded shit all the time. Well, they'll go, since Israel did that, you know that the other side can attack now. So just to be clear, the other side can always attack and has always attacked, and nobody gives a fuck about it. It's the most retarded, like, I don't know if people think they're doing something when they say that, like, Israel, just so you know, because you did that, Iran can attack you now. Like, meanwhile, Hezbollah funding by Iran, Yemen Houthis funded by Iran, aspects of Hamas funded by Iran. Like, wow, really? Okay, well, don't want to, you know. It would be like me calling Hassan a name and then you being like, you know that Hassan might start making lies up about you now, Destiny, right? Like, if you do that, like, yeah, no shit. That's the rules of the Middle East. Okay, so invasion may be wrong, but isn't the general gist that countries should not be launching military strikes on other countries unless they're attacked first or have information that will be imminently attacked? Feels like we would not be okay with what Israel did happening to one of our allies, but are fine with it since it's a country we dislike. I don't know if that's the case. If we had allies that were pursuing nukes against our will, I don't know what we would do. That's a really difficult situation to comprehend. Just so you know, this is a very simple, very easy thing. Israel has done this for years. There is no world where Israel exists and Iran exists with nukes. Israel will either enter an existential war and be destroyed, or Iran will perpetually be put off by having nukes, by having Israel bomb them. I don't know if Israel will ever be willing to posture or have a position internationally where Iran is a nuclear power. I don't know if they would ever deal with that. And I don't even know if I disagree with that necessarily. Haven't they been attacking each other without an official truce for years? Like, this isn't just an attack out of the blue. Israel will attack Iran if it feels like Iran is getting close to nuclear weapons. That will always be the case. That's just always going to be the case. And Iran is pursuing and getting closer and closer to nuclear weapons, so they're going to keep bombing them. That's how it goes. That's how it will go. Why are other countries content with allowing Iran to move towards nukes since breaking the deal in 2020? I've said this before, and I will continue to say it because nobody has proved me wrong, even though I can't possibly be right. I think that Israel is the only country in the Middle East besides... No, I think Israel is the only country in the Middle East with a military. I don't think anybody else has a military. I don't think there are any other ones, except for the non-state actor Hezbollah. Maybe. And the Houthis have a lot of 14-year-olds with AK-47s and bombs that they strap IEDs to, or boats that they strap IEDs to. Oh, and Turkey. Sorry, Turkey. Turkey's got some stuff. Syria has one too. Yeah, split into like 400 pieces. I have no idea what is the capacity of Syria to do anything. Same thing with Iraq. Iraq had an incredibly formidable military prior to the second Gulf War. If other states get the capacity to attack Israel, is it okay to stop that as well? No one is talking about a capacity to attack or whatever. We're talking about nuclear weapons. It's a fundamentally different. It's a different class of thing. That might always be the case, but the question I don't know the answer to, is it unhinged for Israel to do that as well? Like, why doesn't Iran have the right to do so? Israel's feeling is that if Iran gets nuclear weapons, Israel truly faces an existential threat, that Iran will use those and start nuking Israel. That's what Israel's feelings are. Would they? I lean more on the side than no than yes, but like having even if Israel agreed with me, or the right wing in Israel agreed with me, and they would say, okay, so maybe only a 20 or 30% chance that they would nuke us? Yeah, probably not. No one serious would say Iran having nukes is a good thing, but the idea that Iran will have nukes soon has been in the media for at least 30 years now. Can you make the argument for why bombing them doesn't give Iran's allies further justification for funding their nuclear research because they're allies on the brink? You have to just stop. I don't know how to convey that to you. I'm so sorry. But whenever you say things like you're saying something, like you're saying something, and you don't realize that you're saying nothing, right? Doesn't that give Iran justification? They don't need justification. Iran doesn't need justification to pursue an aggressive posture towards Israel. They have been to the maximal extent for at least the past like 2 decades. So when you say, I don't know why you're ending your things like, doesn't this mean that Iran is good? They already are. Well, if you keep doing this, won't people help Iran? They already are. Well, doesn't that at least give them justification? They don't need it. Well, what if they attack Israel? They already are. Like, nothing you say there matters. Iran is already maximally dedicated to the eradication of Israel, okay? So nothing that Israel does changes the calculations there for them at all. Israel just doesn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. And my guess is, unless there is some intricacy that I don't understand, or some interplay between the countries, Saudi Arabia probably really doesn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons as well. So if Iran goes to counterattack and shoot shit at Israel, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw countries like Jordan and Saudi Arabia step up to defend them again, like they did before. Do you think Iran is going to attack U.S. personnel in the region? If my guess would be if they do, it would be incidental. I don't think Iran wants to attack U.S. personnel. The problem is that, at least from what I've seen, everything is following kind of like predictable rules of war. Iran will probably try some counterattack. It's probably going to get smacked down because, like I said, I don't think anybody has a real military in the Middle East besides Israel, Turkey, and Turkey. But what about Egypt? I don't know. What the fuck has Egypt done lately? The Saudi military is not a real thing. I do not believe that, and I will never believe that. Apparently it is, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Fuck, what war was it? Fuck, was it 73? Yom Kippur? There was some war where... Fuck, where did I read this? It was like 4 Saudi planes, huge like cargo planes with a bunch of like military equipment, took off, and the pilots just like flew to Egypt, and they like defected with all the equipment. They were like, fuck this, and they just left. I don't know, bro. I don't believe that Saudi Arabia has a real... These motherfuckers have been, quote unquote, bombing the Houthis that live in fucking caves with AK-40s. Like the Houthis, at least in the northern parts of Yemen, well, it's southern Yemen, but it's like the northern mountainous parts of southern Yemen where the Houthis are from, where the Houthi family's from. Like, that's like actually what people thought the Taliban lived like people in caves with fucking children and guns and shit, I think. And the fact that Saudi Arabia fucking bombed these motherfuckers for years with U.S. help under Trump, a ton. So much that we even started to hide how much we were doing it because Trump stopped publishing those numbers. But yeah, I don't know. Kuwait has a real military. They have 1 million troops in reserve and 2,000 F-35s. Are there even 2,000 F-35s on the planet? Does Kuwait even have 1 million people? Wait, what? I don't actually know. Population Kuwait. There's 4.8 million people. 20% of their people are in the military. Nice. How many F-35s exist? I'm going to guess. I actually have no idea. What? It feels like there'd be like less than 500 of these planes in the whole world, no? I don't know. Okay, there's about 1,170 built worldwide. They found a duplication glitch. Ah. But what if Iran not fathers? Somebody link me the not father. After seeing the Russia and Ukraine war, I feel like the U.S. has been overestimating our adversaries. It's not so much that, so much as it's like, I guess, if you ever play StarCraft against an opponent, when you have a really big army, like in any strategy game, there are different ways to win and play. And if you have a big army, or if you're playing like a race or a faction that makes big armies that kill things really well, your opponent probably isn't going to make a big army to kill your army. Your opponent is probably going to make annoying things to fuck with you, right? I think in RTS it's usually called harassment, or small attacks on your supply lines or your resources or shit like that. And that's the kind of fighting that you're normally going to have to do. Usually, I'm sure there's some Sun Tzu shit written on this. You don't attack where your opponent is the strongest. You always attack at the weakest places. And a lot of warfare, especially now with drones, my guess is a lot of warfare is probably going to come down to these micromanaged, highly, highly efficient attacks, where you've got these drones packed with explosives that are worth, I don't know what, a few $100s. They can destroy, a $5 million plane. I guess the cost benefit there is insane. Pretty sure our military is already shifting to that. The United States military has a lot of capabilities, so of course they're shifting to and trying to be prepared for stuff like that. It's just hard. There's just a lot of stuff to deal with. U.S. military spent a shit ton of money just recently making mobile forward drone and electronic warfare units with totally unarmored vehicles, the tip of our spear. Yeah, there's some, my guess is, as ironic as it is, or maybe it's not ironic, I guess. I bet EVE Online is kind of instructive on, what is it called? Combined arms warfare or layered defense or some bullshit. So like in EVE, in EVE you can have, I don't know if the classes are the same with all the ships, but in EVE you can have like these really big class of ships called dreadnoughts, or big classes of ships called supercarriers. They have really big guns. They can destroy huge things, tons of firepower, but they're not really that good at dealing with very, very, very small things, right? In EVE, these were frigate-class ships. You can put smaller guns on these if you want, but ideally these are big boys that can carry their big guns, right? You don't usually want, at least when I played, you don't want ships that can destroy everything, right? Big capital level ships are for destroying big things. In EVE, it would have been POS's player-owned starbases or other capital ships, right? So to protect these things, you have lower classes of ships. Rather than just having capital ships, what was the class down from capital ships? I believe it was cruisers, and then below cruisers you would have destroyers, and then below destroyers you'd have frigates. Does that line up with like stuff in the ocean? Okay, I don't know if it's the same thing, but like you have different sizes and different levels of ships to deal with different types of threats. But like conceivably, if your composition of your fleet is not appropriate, you can run into a really gross scenario where you might be able to field, theoretically, $100 billion worth of big ships and battle cruisers might be. Were those above cruisers? I don't know if a battle cruiser is a real class of ship, but maybe you field a ton of capital ships, a ton of big cruisers, but you actually don't have the appropriate arms to deal with small ships. And as a result of that, an incredibly expensive fleet might be destroyed by something comparatively way smaller and cheaper. Or past this, in EVE, there are certain types of threats that you have to be aware of. Now, if you have the proper countermeasures, these threats are relatively harmless, right? So for instance, bomber fleets. Bomber fleets are fleets that would be able to, bombers are relatively cheap. What happens is they warp in at a close-ish range. They're stealth, so you can't see them. They deploy a whole bunch of bombs, and then before the bombs go off, they warp out to safety. Now, the problem with the bombs is even if the stealth bomber fleet gets caught, the bombs will destroy everything in an incredibly cost-effective manner, right? But if you have in Eve, there are like pathways or lanes to get to other star systems. If you have a scout that's sitting on these gates, you'll always see when a bomber fleet is coming in, you know? So there's a lot of stuff that, can fuck your day up, but as long as you have the appropriate countermeasure, the threat is effectively neutralized. But when you forget to have like the certain countermeasure that you need, you can run into a scenario where these incredibly cost-effective ways of fucking your shit up, fuck all of your shit up, and it completely fucks your day up. It seems like just like a video game stuff, but I think I wish I knew more like military history, but I want to say the Spanish Armada? I think Spain's naval fleet was completely destroyed by, I want to say it was by small ships. The recent Russia-Ukraine wars are an example of this. This is one of the reasons why the U.S. like practices and trains with the military so much, and hopefully does things like logistics and everything really well and all that too. Yeah. Yes, blowing up the Death Star. True. Kyle Kalinske spent his entire Iran-Israel coverage video shitting on Trump and blaming Trump for the war and negotiations. Do you think this is the right way? I think it's the wrong approach and delegitimizes the left. Wait, what? I don't know if that's a troll message or not. I was clenching my asshole yesterday because I was seeing Kalinske links pop up, and I thought I was just going to have to mute the Twitter account because him talking about foreign policy makes me want to kill myself. But everything I saw him, all the tweets that I saw with him and stuff were dangerously based. Okay, this isn't fair because if you've watched Middle Eastern history for the past 100 years, Arab warfare be like, step 1, release badass trailers showing your fighters training in the desert. Step 2, give speech promising to annihilate your enemies. Step 3, die. Yeah. If you had to choose what is the most important factor in winning a war, manpower or money, I saw a news channel comparing Iran to Israel and talking about how much more manpower Iran has, but Israel is so much wealthier. Neither of those things matter. What matters is the capability of your military, which can be influenced by the amount of people you have, and it can be influenced by the amount of money you have, but it depends on how much you spend on either one, right? And it depends on the type of war you're trying to fight, right? I brought this up over and over and over again, and it sucks because you need to have some background knowledge on geopolitics, on like world foreign shit. And if you don't know anything, then I've said this before, when I say things to people, it's literally the very first time you've ever heard them. And I'm a libcuck. And so the default is going to be this guy's just like rambling off some conspiratorial nonsense. But one criticism I used to always say was the no new wars under Trump was the stupidest talking point in the world. There was plenty of global conflict under Trump. I don't know how they were able to like rewrite history or reconfigure our understanding of events that have actually happened for some reason. It's so crazy. But just, and I'm sure you could find more examples of this, but like just as a quick, like review, the recent conflict epitomizes a lot of my complaints about the Trump crowd who kept saying no new wars under Trump. You can draw a straight line back to a lot of Trump's actions that explain a lot of the international conflict over the past 5 years. So the first thing, I bring this up a lot, some Israeli people get mad at me, but like the Abraham Accords or peace in the Middle East, as so many conservatives, Ben Shapiro included, called it, was a deal that cut out Palestinians from Middle East negotiations and directly led to the 2019 border riots, which fed into the anxiety and frustrations that were the big motivations behind the October 7th attacks. That Great March of Return, the border riot stuff, like explicitly and literally was about the Abraham Accords, the embassy being moved, and Palestinians being excluded from those talks, and then the continued relegation of Palestinians to the sidelines fed into the October 7th stuff. Okay, well, if you're not going to talk to us, we're going to blow you up. It's crazy to me how many people were talking about peace in the Middle East. This is peace. This is true peace in the Middle East. Like, they were such cocksuckers, and I didn't know as much 5 years ago or 7 years ago when the Abraham Accords were signed. So I didn't even argue against this point much, but they were so big on the beat. We finally have peace in the Middle East. Oh my God, finally peace in the Middle East. Like, what the fuck? And then all this shit happens like right after. Wow, it must not have been great peace, I guess, right? Ukraine and Russia continued on when Trump was president. Trump sold weapons to Ukraine. He didn't do anything to kick the Russians out of any part of Ukraine at all. Nothing in Crimea, nothing in the Donbass. And, right, I mean, like, and then they invaded in 2022. Trump did nothing to stop or halt any of this at all. The drone attacks in coordination with Saudi Arabia against Yemen under Trump continue to feed into the impoverishment and destabilization of the country, further entrenching the Houthis' power and strengthening their relationship with Iran. You know, the Houthis are still attacking people to this day, whether they're trying to shoot shit at Israel, whether they're trying to shoot shit into the ocean, or whether they're trying to shoot stuff at Saudi Arabia. The Houthis are still there. Trump stepped up the drone attacks, didn't get us any closer to solving any of the issues. They're still there doing shit to this day. Their relationship with Iran is probably closer than ever. The tearing up of the Iranian nuclear deal and the inability to negotiate anything lasting with them has led to the conflict we see today, with Iran rushing for nuclear weaponry and Israel trying to stop it at all costs. After that nuclear deal was revoked, Iran attacked Saudi Arabia directly for the first time ever under Trump's presidency. And now we see Iran today. Obviously, they've been attacked multiple times by Israel. They are trying to rush towards a nuclear weapon as quickly as possible. I believe Iran announced earlier today that they are done having negotiations with the United States. I don't know if that's holding or not, or how true that is. I literally just read that as a headline. The absolute and total surrender of the United States and Afghanistan forces to the Taliban in Doha, without the Afghanistan government even being involved or notified of the negotiations, followed by the drawdown to historic lows of troop numbers there, leading to the catastrophic collapse and hasty pullout in Afghanistan under precarious conditions, etc. Like, Trump has done so much bad shit in his admin, but like the can is just kicked down the road. The fact that this guy can come in and be like, oh, there are no new wars under me. No new wars under me. Like, bro, are you serious? You fed into so much international destabilization. And some of it doesn't happen until, some of it's happening under your term now. Some of it happened under Biden. And then he's like, oh, well, under me, nothing happened. Like, bro, fuck off. It's so gross. Also, Trump admits he knew of the planned attacks. My guess is the U.S. is always going to be kept in the loop of any kind of attacks or anything like that, of course. You wouldn't want to surprise your biggest ally. You don't want to leave us having to make a statement or figuring out what the fuck is going on. That's probably always going to be the case, be my guess. Do you think that Iran will respond in a manner that will escalate the war, such that both sides will keep upping the ante? No. I don't think that happens. I don't think that really happens. I think, unless there's a historic example that I can't think of, this just feels like a childlike concept of like, well, in war, one person will shoot one person, and the other person will shoot two people, and then that person will shoot 7 people, and then like, everybody is mutually invested in not having shit fly off the handle. Nobody wants that. Literally nobody wants that on either side. Things don't just magically escalate because of whatever. It's not like we're outside of a bar and everybody's drunk and some guy gets shot. Iran, I don't even know if they have the ability to escalate anything. Though my guess is they'll try some counterattack. They'll blow up some embassy, or try to, or attack Israel, or try to, and fail miserably, and then say we got them, and then off. It's my guess. But is there any evidence that Iran is creating nuclear weapons? I'm pretty sure most of the world agrees. I feel like there are a bunch of articles released just recently that says that they're like closing in on having nuclear weapons. Yes. I've repeated this a million times for the election, but we'll continue to say it. American foreign policy is uniparty, retarded. Israel rarely does anything without America's go-ahead. Depends on what he means by go-ahead, but he's probably too retarded to understand what he's saying there. I seriously doubt, or, well, I shouldn't say seriously doubt, because I don't know if, I don't think the United States wanted Israel to attack Iran, because I think the U.S. has been involved in talks with Iran, and this is kind of undermining our position. Also, I don't know if it's because Trump is retarded. He is retarded. The United States has not been working alongside Israel when it comes to doing stuff in the Middle East. We've just been doing our own thing, sometimes to Israel's chagrin. For instance, our direct negotiations with Hamas, I think, triggered the fuck out of Netanyahu. I think they even publicly chastised us for that. Trump was never a peaceful dove, but Dem warhawks let him lie like that. What? Trump is a weak baby. Okay. Is it unfair to give Rand Paul some credit for his willingness to shit on Trump for his behavior and some policy differences they have, like the deficit? No. I think that it is fair to give him some credit for that. Because Rand Paul takes a little bit after his dad, not as extreme, but he's like, I'm a libertarian and low spending and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like Rand Paul has stood relatively tall on that. Now, if it comes down to him being the deciding vote on something or whatever, he would get a lot more credit. But Israel poking Syria is directly against the U.S. interests. Obviously, don't ask for U.S. permission on shit. Yeah, people are probably confusing the fact that Israel telling the U.S. something doesn't mean that the U.S. is approving it. It just means that they're making us aware of it. Remember, if we're not going into World War III everybody's trying to keep everybody on the up and up to let people know, like, you know, what's going on so that shit doesn't get unhinged or out of control, which is good. It wouldn't surprise me if Iran knew to some extent that they were going to get hit soon. Because I think, didn't Iran mobilize troops like a few days ago? Jesus Christ. Precisely where the bedroom was. God damn, bro. Those are drone wings? How could they lose so many generals if they knew? Well, they would just know that some kind of general strike is coming, but maybe not exactly what's going on. So I'm going to chat earlier about the Iran thing, and listening to what you said earlier makes me think we just fundamentally disagree. My only question is, if nuclear proliferation is the goal, you mean non-nuclear proliferation? Shouldn't countries be solely targeting foreign countries to disable their nukes? I don't see a world where Israel is able to keep Iran from assembling an arsenal. Eventually, they will just look toward third parties to either procure them or treaty and come under their umbrella. Isn't it super mega illegal to ship around and sell enriched uranium to countries? I feel like you would get mega fucked, and I feel like every country would hate you if you were doing shit like that. I could be wrong, but I thought that was not okay. Trump to Wall Street Journal. U.S. was aware of Israel's plans to attack Iran. President Trump told the Wall Street Journal that he and his team were aware of Israel's plans to attack Iran. Asked what kind of heads up the U.S. got ahead of the attack, Trump said in a brief phone interview on Friday morning, heads up. It wasn't a heads up. It was, we know what's going on. Okay. The president said he spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday and plans to speak to him again Friday. He calls the operation a very successful attack, to put it mildly. I told the other side, I said, you have 60 days to make the deal. On the 61st day, they attacked. Today is 61, actually. And it was a very successful attack, Trump said. Is there any public evidence of this 60-day timeline? They should make a deal, and they still can make a deal. While they have something left, they still can. Trump said the markets would respond positively if Iran's nuclear capacity was diminished. I think ultimately great for the market, because Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, he said. It will be great for the market. Should be the greatest thing ever for the market. Iran won't have a nuclear weapon. That was a great threat to humanity. Well, you really did it this time. Ooh, you pesky Israelis, your day is coming. Just not today, but it's coming. Yep, we'll make you pay, just not today. Just to be clear, ooh, Israel, you mess with the bullet, you get the horns, maybe. Just don't do it again, please, or else. Here's Trump in 2018 pulling out of the Iran deal, which they were completely abiding by.
I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. In a few moments, I will sign a presidential memorandum to begin reinstating U.S. nuclear sanctions on the Iranian regime. We will be instituting the highest level of economic sanction. Any nation that helps Iran in its quest for nuclear weapons could also be strongly sanctioned by the United States. America will not be held hostage to nuclear blackmail.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. Our president...
I never understood why Republicans supported pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal when the main criticism I heard was the U.S. unfroze a bunch of money and asked about Iran. It's not like pulling out gave those back, right? If I handed a Republican a note and that note said, do not eat your own shit, they would look at that note and they would say, okay, I don't know why you gave me this. If I handed them this exact same note in 2017 and it said, do not eat your own shit, signed Obama, every laxative store in the United States would instantaneously be sold out, and Republicans would be en masse digging up sewage pipes and eating as much as they possibly could. They would shovel every gram of shit they could find anywhere in the United States into their mouths. And they would say, I do what I want. Republicans oppose the Iran nuclear deal because Obama signed it. Period. Anything else is a lie.